Hello everybody, welcome back to Auto Anorak. Today we're going to be talking about Stradman's $38,000 exhaust system on his Bugatti Veyron. Potentially the most insane exhaust system on YouTube, definitely the most expensive exhaust system fitted to a car on YouTube. He's definitely got his finances sorted out better than I have. Anyway, we're gonna go straight into it. We're gonna get going into, I guess, why the exhaust costs so much, what equivalent exhausts there are, and also if this exhaust is really that expensive when you take into account that the car itself is about £1,000,000. Let's get into it. Stradman's $38,000 Bugatti Veyron exhaust. This is a Bugatti Veyron, albeit a rather tiny, small one. And when this car came out in circa 2005, it was the most amazing spec sheet of any car ever. It was near enough €1,000,000, 250 mph plus top speed, 1,000 brake horsepower, 4-wheel drive, 4 turbos. It is an engineering masterpiece. It is everything that an automotive engineer probably dreams they can be a part of. But for all of its various different cutting edge technologies, the one thing in the car that does look a bit off is whenever you open up the back of it, which does come off in the real car. I'll get Strad to show you now how that works.
My goodness.
We got Bugatti in the house.
It's in here. And you can see this little thing. This is the muffler on the Bugatti Veyron. It is gigantic. It reminds me of, I don't even know. It reminds me of having like a massive barrel that you'd store oil in the back of the car. It doesn't fit with the rest of the car and how cutting edge and lightweight it is, but they have to make the car like that in order to go with all the various noise requirements and so forth. The Bugatti Veyron engine is a W16, and essentially you can think of it as two Audi R8 V8 engines kind of wedged together really tightly. And if you ever watched Stradman whenever he had an R8, which is technically half of the Veyron, so that's kind of cool to think about, it sounded like a vacuum cleaner. And the Veyron is pretty much the same with this exhaust system. It sounds like some sort of Russian truck. I don't know about you, but whenever you've paid roughly about $1,000,000, I know he paid about 800,000 for a high performance hypercar, you don't want it to sound like a Russian truck, like a diesel truck, but it does. So what were Stradman's options? Well, I think there's about 4 exhausts in existence, or at least 4 companies that make exhausts for the Veyron in existence. The first one, I believe, was Quicksilver. Quicksilver made an exhaust. Quicksilver do, I think, a stainless steel one, which is around about £11,000, maybe $15,000. And they also do a full titanium one. It's the only other titanium one other than Stradman's one. That exhaust was amazing. I think they were about, the first ever one made was 100,000. Crazy cost. I'll let you hear what that sounds like now. The next one that got made, I'm not too sure. It was either Mansory or a company called Sire. I don't know when Sire made this exhaust. It seems to be the rarest of all of them. But take a listen to the Sire exhaust. And now finally, potentially the exhaust that's on most Veyrons is the Mansory exhaust because of the various Mansory editions. Now, obviously a lot of people have a lot of colourful and interesting things to say about Mansory. There is the worst spec Instagram page, bit of a gem if you've never been on it, and they call Mansory "Man, sorry because we've ruined your car." I'm not going to comment on that, but look at their lawnmower. There's a lot of people with a lot of money to spend out in this world, and Mansory is an example of it. Okay, just stop right there, okay? This is editing John from the future. I couldn't find the prices for the Mansory exhaust, I realised this. It's rumoured that they're roughly around 30,000, 40,000, very similar prices. But what I did find out is that the stock exhaust for the Veyron is $12,000, so it's still pretty expensive. It's like a third of the cost of the custom one, so there's an interesting fact. But their exhaust doesn't sound half bad, so take a listen. exhaust is of course the Rift exhaust made by Rift Co., a company started up by Houston from Royalty Exotics. Houston may own a Bugatti, you may have heard him talk about it.
I bought my first Bugatti at 28.
Anyway, it's all jokes. I'd love to come to Vegas sometime and rent out some cars. That would be really cool. But anyway, yeah, he's got this company. Rift.co is very different to the rest of these companies, at least Quicksilver and Mansory. Quicksilver have been making exhausts for quite a while. Shmi actually had a Quicksilver exhaust in his R8 V10. It sounded very good. That's how I know about the company. Mansory has obviously been running for multiple years out in Europe. It's an interesting company, but these are well-developed companies, whereas Rift is brand new, based out in Las Vegas, and Rift seem to be incredibly good at very, very rapid product development. And that's partly because they have so many rental cars. They can just get the cars, scan what the exhausts all look like, and then create their own tone for it. The Rift exhaust is potentially the most extravagant, potentially the greatest exhaust on any Bugatti, because not only is it titanium, but also it has those kind of blue, purpley titanium burnt finishes on some of the welds. Some people will tell you this is a bad thing, because basically it means that whenever you've been doing your welding, you've been doing it too slowly and allowing the titanium to burn a little bit too much, but it's really more just a visual thing. Personally, I think it looks a little bit fussy. I think it looks like a blue zebra. I much prefer the look of the Quicksilver exhaust, but I can't deny that it's a bit of a show-stopping piece on the car, especially for a YouTuber that's trying to make their exhaust look very colourful. But I can say this exhaust looks a hell of a lot better than the oil drum in the back of Strads currently. The exhaust looks cool and it sounds good, but it doesn't stop there. And this is something I'm going to compare against Bugatti's own car, the Veyron Supersport, so that you can see where the value lies in this exhaust from a performance perspective. So the Rift exhaust saves about 40 pounds from the car, which is around about 20 kilos. And to put that in perspective, whenever Bugatti changed from the Veyron to the Veyron Supersports, they reduced about 110 pounds from the car. So it's a little bit over a third of the weight savings that you would have got out of the Veyron SS. But it's been said that the Rift exhaust increases the horsepower of the car from 1000 to about 1100, and Bugatti with the Supersport increased the power from 1000 to 1200. So you're getting half of the power and a third of the weight savings. The Veyron Supersport brought the car's price up from, and this is adjusted for inflation, I did all of the math, it was about 1.3 million for the standard Bugatti back in the day, and 1.7 million for the SS when it came out, and this is with prices adjusted to inflation, so you know, it is a fair comparison. So that's 400,000 pounds. This is British pounds. I'll work that out in dollars. That is $536,990-ish dollars. So it's about a $500,000 difference. Now, what are the main differences? Obviously, it was kind of rebodied. It had a stronger, lighter carbon fiber weave. The aero is different. It's got those Nakaducks on the top, and that's smoothed over a bit over the engine bay. And obviously, I think the turbos were slightly uprated and things like that. But the exhaust that Strad bought cost $38,000. So you're getting half of the power and third of the lightness from the Supersport for a 14th of the price. That is absurd. It is incredibly good value for money from a performance perspective, and it's gonna add so much to the channel. Also, let's look at that. So if you weren't aware, Stradman's normal sort of average view count is around about 1 million views, and when he gets 1 million views, he usually makes about $7,000 or $8,000. However, AdSense revenue is much higher, or at least you know, reasonably higher in the month of December, and he got 1.4 million views on his video whenever he was collecting the exhausts. So it's likely that he's already made around between $10,000 and $14,000. So he's already made about a third of the money back on his purchase of the exhaust in just one video, and he hasn't even driven the car yet with the exhaust on it. So that's kind of crazy. Also, if you're wondering where I learnt where he makes so much money in all of the videos and things like that. It was on Graham Stefan's podcast. There's the Iced Coffee podcast, there's Graham Stefan's own podcast, and then he did a video on his main channel. He did loads of videos on it. Very interesting. Probably about 2.5 hours of content just on how Stradman makes money. It was very interesting. And now we're going to compare proportionately the cost of Stradman's exhaust versus how much a normal person might spend in their exhaust, and see if it's really bad in retrospect to how much a Bugatti costs. If you get what that means, we'll get onto that in a minute. But first, I want to know about you guys. How much would you spend on exhaust? Have you guys bought exhausts? This one is not for F-Spot, by the way. I'm not totally sure, but I think I might know by now how much the exhaust costs in your S-Class. I do love that car. But yeah, let me know, have you guys purchased an exhaust? Is it something that you think is worth a lot of money? I personally think whenever I get a reasonably nice car, an exhaust is going to be a good addition. Whether it's like a Clio RS with a $1,000 exhaust, or an Aventador with a Powercraft exhaust system. Take a listen, actually, that's worth a listen. The average cost of a brand new car in the USA is $36,000 as of May of 2019. Now Stradman's Veyron was near enough $900,000, which means his car cost 25 times more than the average car. Strad spends a lot of money on cars. Let's refresh ourselves on the cars that he has. I keep track of these things. So in his car collection, he's got a Veyron, the Nissan GTR obviously, the Bug Killer, the Aventador Coupe, the Aventador Roadster Pirelli Edition, Gallardo Twin Turbo, Jeep Gladiator 6x6. 1 hour later. Ferrari 430 Challenge, Ford Shelby Raptor. He's got a few cars. He's got a lot of money. He's got enough money to buy a $900,000 car. But this is where the exhaust doesn't look so bad. So his car is 25 times more than a normal car. But if you were to reduce the cost of his exhaust price by 25 times, it would come up to about $1,500, which is probably what most people would spend on their car as an exhaust system. I love the Clio RS, I'd love to have one, and one of the first mods I'd love to do on it is an exhaust system, and that's about 1,200 quid, so 1,500 quid doesn't seem too bad for an exhaust system. So in perspective, it doesn't seem to be that bad on value. I mean, it sounds amazing, it's way cheaper than the Super Sport package for the car and provides great performance. It's already made his channel a lot of money, and it looks really cool, and it's, I think, one of one or one of two in the world, so it's a very rare exhaust system that is really going to take this car to the next level. Let that W16 sing. Okay, it's editing John back again. I realized I missed out a really important part of the whole video, which is how much would a titanium exhaust actually cost? Like, how much for all this titanium things? Could I build it myself? Could I do it better? We're gonna find that out. Number one, the thing that loads of people will tell you is that Rift exhausts are actually pretty damn good at their welds. And welding is not a cheap thing. Good welders cost a good amount of money. And also, if you guys forgot, the reason why you want a titanium exhaust instead of a stainless steel exhaust is because titanium is less dense, and so the sound is kind of just better. The car just kind of has a more exotic, rich, wealthy sound. Now, I've looked up a website and it says that 2 feet of 2 inches diameter titanium pipe. I don't know if that just made sense, but it's late at night, so you're just gonna have to go with it. Yeah, $72. Now that sounds kind of wrong. I don't know. Can someone please enlighten me? Because then surely the whole system's a couple $100. Now I know obviously there's R&D and there's the fact that they have to design it specifically for a Bugatti. So I kind of get that. There's obviously a lot more development costs, and actually more than just the raw material. There's actually forming it and crafting it. So obviously that costs a lot of money. But yeah, $72. What it's saying is the actual material costs about 3 times more than your average stainless steel exhaust, which is about right. The Quicksilver titanium exhaust was about 3 times more than the Quicksilver stainless steel exhaust. So this all seems to make sense. So I guess from a raw material perspective it looks like a rip-off, but almost everything looks like a rip-off from only a raw material perspective. Have you learned much? I guess you've learned that the raw materials themselves are 3 times more expensive, and so yeah, I guess the cost does make sense. That was another minute of editing, John. I will send you back to normal John. I'm sure you'll prefer that. So if you guys are also Stradman fans, firstly, I mean, welcome. I do far too much Stradman content in this channel because I'm obsessed with the channel, but how can you not be? I love his videos. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you are, let me know if you're a Stradman fan below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and yeah, I guess I will see you in the next one. Till next time.